Welcome to LSC. It's sports time. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Today I have with me Marlin Hicks, former Kickintown High football player. Welcome, Marlin. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, you're a big guy, and when big guys come on the set, I'm real easy with you. Let's talk a little bit about growing up, because you grew up in Hampton and played ball at Y.H. Thomas.
Yes.
And talk a little bit about that experience and who some of the coaches were at the rec league.
Well, I started playing at 9 years old. Y.H. Thomas, my coach was Coach Carl. He coached there for many years after we left. I went on from Coach Carl to Coach Braxton. I played there 4 years, and eventually my weight limit was a little too high, so I had to move on to JV, and that's when I started at Kickintown.
Okay, because see, that's one of the problems you find out if a kid is a little bit bigger, then he really is limited in who he can play with.
Yeah, when I first started, I was 9, but I couldn't play with the midgets, which was my age group.
Right.
I had to start with the intermediate, so I only played intermediates and juniors, so I started with the big boys.
Did you find that helped you at all? Because you were playing with guys that were a little bit older and maybe a little bit better athletically? Did that help?
My first year, it was a little different because all the guys I always looked up to, they was older than me. My second year, I started getting accustomed to it, and then that's when I found out I had to go to juniors, which was, to me, was way bigger. It was a lot faster, but it helped me. Once I got to JV, it helped me because a lot of those guys was, they moved on as well, so it helped me a little bit.
So you went to JVs as an 8th grader?
8th grader, yes, sir.
Right. And who was your coach? We're talking about with Kickintown JV.
Coach Merrow. Al Merrow.
Right, and Al's been there long, he's still there.
Yeah, he's been there a long time, yeah.
So, so then you make it into the varsity.
Yeah.
A different animal.
Yeah.
And then you got some pretty good coaches.
Yes, when I went into 9th grade, my 8th grade year, Kickintown won the district, Morocco, Brown, and all those guys, and it was about 22 seniors. So when we came up in 9th grade, me, Javon Quillen, guys like us, they needed us to play immediately. So we had to learn quick. Kurt Newsom was our coach, and he's real intense, and he didn't baby us at all. He threw us right in, talked to us like we were seniors, and coached us up, and we were ready to go by first game.
Right, but you had other coaches than Coach Newsom that worked with you.
Yeah, Coach Dan Thompson, who's still there to this day. He was my first position coach because I was a DN at first, and then as I moved to defensive tackle later, Revis Conrad, rest in peace, he took me over after that, and we had Jack Jenkins, who was very intense.
Right.
Coach Hebert, who he still teaches at Kickintown today.
Yeah.
So we have some good coaches. Coach Woodleaf, who's there now as the head coach, and Chip West as well was an assistant.
So you ended up with a lot of coaches that had a connection to Kickintown High School, which was kind of neat. Now, when you were playing and you started as a 9th grader, could you see that you could, I can play at this level?
Yeah.
When did you first say, was that your first scrimmage game or was your first varsity game?
I think in the scrimmage games I started to see, I can play, because I've been the same height. So I was tall. At that time, I was at my weight. I was a lot smaller than I am now, but I was big for my age, and I felt that I could play. Honestly, when I really knew that I can play is when we played Hampton first game, and Ronald Curry was a quarterback, and I got a hit on him, and you get a hit on Ronald, that's always great. So playing against those guys who had a great team, and we almost beat them, we lost in overtime. Of course, Ronald scored the game-winning touchdown. That was the beginning of his success. But after that game, I was like, me and Javon Quillen, we was both freshmen then too, so we was like, we can do this,
Yeah. So all that work with being able to play against guys older than you, growing up, probably had something to do with being able to walk right in as a 9th grader and not only play but start being successful.
Yeah. You tend, when you go to varsity and you're young like that, you tend to look up to a lot of people. But being that I've always played with older guys, and a lot of the guys who were junior and seniors I might have played with in rec league, I didn't have to look up to them as much. It was more like, that's just,
I belong here.
Yeah, that's Big Marlin, and let's come on and play. So
Right.
They welcomed me and it was okay.
Well, so you had 4 good years at Kecoughtan.
Yeah.
And then SATs aren't great.
No.
So you take a step and go up to Hargrave Military Academy.
Yeah, Hargrave.
Now there's a little different animal.
Yeah, yes it is. At first, I didn't know what to expect. Bobby Blizzard went first. He knew that he was going to enroll. That kind of got me to say, okay, I'll do it because I have to do it into somebody I know that'll be there with me. But you didn't know what to expect because it was military.
Right.
And once we got there, we had our bumps and bruises. A lot of guys who couldn't handle it, they'd probably leave within the first week or 2. But we knew we had goals beyond that, so we had to stay there. And now that I look back on it, it was probably the best step that I made. Right. It helped me out a lot.
Did you find out that because you were a football player and you were used to fighting for whatever you wanted, that helped you when you went to Hargrave?
Yeah, that helps you, and just the fact that everyone's on the same page. Right. We were postgraduates, which means we already graduated, but you still had middle school, high school kids there. Everyone was treated the same. Everyone was in uniform. Everyone was up at 5:30 a.m. Everyone, you did the same stuff. So it's like once you get used to it, you wasn't babied or nothing like that. You wasn't given special privileges. You just had to do your job, and everything will work out from there. So.
Right. Well, you evidently did well there because you ended up going to Marshall, the Thundering Herd.
Yeah, the Thundering
Talk
Herd.
about that. Because we even had a movie about the Thundering Herd.
That was interesting. I never been to West Virginia, so I didn't know what to expect. When I first got there, I actually ended up in the wrong city. I ended up in Charleston, and I thought because it had, buildings and stuff that was the university, but then come to find out it wasn't. So then I had to keep going about 45 more minutes of the road, and I got there, and the people were real nice. They love football, they love the Thundering Herd, so a lot of people didn't know much about me because I came from, way over here in 757, and so I just got to meet a lot of good people. Coach Pruitt was my coach,
right.
And he welcomed me from day one and made me feel comfortable. Max Yates, who also played in our district, he went there. So he was already there a year before me because I was at Hargrave.
Right.
So then I got with Max, and then it was just like how I felt at home then because I knew somebody.
It's always nice to have somebody there that you know, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Did you start right away?
No, actually, my first year, I had the prop. I was a prop my first year, and I had to get my grades and everything together, right. Make sure that they want to make sure that you're going to be able to do the schoolwork. Right. Once that all was put in place, I got my full scholarship. My first year on the field, I was a backup. I was behind 2 seniors, and I just played my role, and then the next year I started after that. So
wow.
It was okay.
So that was, and you got to do some traveling and play teams that you only heard about.
Yeah. That's the thing about going to Marshall and being in the MAC. We traveled a lot in the Mid-American Conference, right. So I'll be in Detroit, Ohio, Illinois, places I've never been. You only see on the map. You meet all kinds of people, and you just get to see how people interact in different places, which is always good.
Right. Yeah. Now, we talked about, you had to get your SATs up and all that. You get your degree, and then you get your master's degree. So, I mean, you really hit the books and made the adjustments you needed to do. Where'd you get your master's in?
I got my master's in training and development, and my bachelor's was in health and PE. So, but that's why I think Hargrave helped me. We had a study hall every night, 10 until 10 o'clock. You had curfew, you had structure. When you go to college, you off on your own. That was my first time away from home besides the military school. So
right.
I could have easily just partied, my freshman year away and been behind, but instead, because I felt like I had that extra year of growing and structure, I went straight to the books, and I just found my niche, what I like to do, and I did it, got it done.
Do you find that the athletics helps you structure your time to hit the books and all that? Do you more talk about that? Because a lot of times these kids don't understand that athletics help you in academics.
Yes, it does, because they don't give you a lot of time to yourself. Not too much. They got set times throughout the year where you can have to yourself, but it's really a strict schedule. If you got practice at 6 a.m., you know, like off season and you have practice till 8 o'clock, your first class at 9 o'clock. That means after practice, you have to get straight to the showers, straight to class, go to class. You have study hall at 12. So, you know, then you got lunch, things like that. So the schedule is set up to help you go right on through the day so you don't have a lot of time to just mess around and not get anything done. So
who was your mentor?
I say Kurt Newsom. Kurt Newsom went to school with my mother and my father. They, you know, I didn't know all this until I got older. He graduated from Phoebus High, which my mother and dad did. So growing up, you know, I used to see Kecoughtan play out. I ran into him as a young kid in rec league, and we talked, and that's how he found out who I was. And ever since then, I just looked up to him because my father wasn't around a lot, so I kind of gravitated to my coaches. And at that time, coming in as a JV player on to 9th grade, it was easy just, you know, I don't feel like doing this no more, whatever. But coach wasn't going to let me do that. I mean, he'll be at my house 5:30 in the morning for 2-day practice, you know, honking the horn, flashing the lights, and I'm just like, you know, helping me out. Him, Coach Thompson, Dan Thompson as well are coming. So they kind of pushed me to keep going. So I would say Kurt Newsom.
Right. Now you go back last year and you coached at Kecoughtan and coached with your buddy, Bobby Bliss is over there with you.
Yes.
But that's kind of surreal because now you're going back, you got Scott Woodleaf's head coach, Dan Thompson still there. So it's a little different now. You're going back here almost equal. Not quite.
Not quite. That was interesting. First of all, having Bobby there, being that he's a crabber, it's hard for a crabber to just change over to the green, and even seeing him wearing this shirt was kind of funny to me. We'll joke about that. But Coach Thompson, you know, being that he coached me, is kind of hard, you know, for him sometime to look at me and call me Coach Hicks. And, you know, it's not too hard for me to call him Dan because I do it just to make him mad, but he still know I respect him. Coach Woodleaf was always the type of guy who was just like the cool coach to us, you know, like if you really needed something to talk about and it was serious and you know you might need a light side to it, you can talk to Coach Woodleaf. So he helped us out a lot when we were younger. So when he came back, I was happy to see him come back.
Right. Last question. If you was able to talk with the kids in the rec league, getting ready to go into junior varsity or junior varsity or whatever, what would you tell them? It's not a secret, but things that they need to do to be prepared.
I would say, I'll tell you the biggest thing I did when I was younger, I used to dream a lot. I used to watch football. I used to watch guys like Lawrence Taylor, guys especially that I knew were from the area, and I just dreamed. Now, with those dreams, you know you got certain things you have to do. So you have to maintain your grades. You have to stay positive, hang around the right people. There's no need to hang around people that are doing the opposite of what you're trying to do. If you want to play sports, put yourself around athletes that are playing sports. Don't hang around guys that are not doing that, you know, and just dream. Understand that there's other things out here other than Hampton. You know, I love Hampton to death. You know, nobody can talk bad about it because it's a city I grew up in, but you have to dream and see bigger pictures. You have to be able to want to go out. When you watch the guys on college football, if they at North Carolina, Virginia Tech, wherever, they traveling to California, you know, Florida, you know, around the country seeing other things. So I would tell the kids, just dream, find something you like and just put yourself all into it. And I think that'll help you to want to do what you need to do to get to that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for tuning in to LSC and Sports Time. I want to thank my special guest, Marlin Hicks. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Until next time.